Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. The topic of this 10-minute moan is me looking at this new drive that appeared from nowhere to have Scottish motorists fined a minimum £20 for having their engines on idle. That's right, on idle. Now, I was alerted to this with some things I seen shared on social media about this headline, £20 fines, etc. for Scottish motorists with their engines on idle. And I thought, that's a bit strange. Is there any truth in it? So I started looking into it, and in fact, it's not new. The legislation has been there since 2003 to enable Scottish local council areas to issue these fines, not the police. So the councils have had this option for 20 odd years, but very, very few have been using it. So I thought, well, why all of a sudden are we having this big drive for these fines? So I had a look on the internet, and it turns out back in, when was this, August, the Scottish Sun ran a story with the headline, "We're fuming, no fines issued in 20 years as major Scots cities let drivers off the hook for a banned act." I thought, okay, so why after 20 years are we suddenly talking about it? So I had a look through the article. It says drivers in Scotland have been dodging fines for years as multiple councils across the country have not issued penalties in years. Campaigners are calling for tougher enforcement on polluting motorists after it emerged that one local authority has not levied fines for one particular offence in over 20 years. And that is Edinburgh. Engine idling, leaving your car running while stationary, releases toxic exhaust fumes which contribute to pollution and can impact human health. The road traffic offence, which has been in place since 2003, can be enforced by local authorities by issuing a £20 fine to drivers who idle their engines unnecessarily. Well, it's actually £20 if you pay it early enough. There's a discount. It's actually a £40 fine you're issued with, but with a £20 discount for early settlement. But listen carefully. The Environmental Rights Centre, ERC, for Scotland, have hit out at the systemic failure to penalise drivers after it found that councils across the country were not effectively imposing it. The City of Edinburgh has not issued any fixed penalty notices since the ban's introduction, despite 362 reports of engine idling between 2019 and 2023. And Glasgow City Council has just dished out just 3 fines since 2017. Now the ERCS are calling for the level of fines to be increased. They say that the Scottish Government should issue better guidance to encourage stronger enforcement, and that enforcement monitoring should be reinstated, particularly around engine idling hotspots such as schools and hospitals. The activists have written to Edinburgh, Glasgow, Dundee and Aberdeen councils in a bid to tackle the disparity between reports of idling and its enforcements. Anybody with any grasp on the makeup of Scottish cities would understand that those are our 4 most populated areas. So these activists have took it on themselves to start writing to councils and kick up a bit of fuss. They've obviously done a bit of digging to get the facts, etc. But the ERCS's chief officer, Shivali Fifield, said, "Air pollution contributes to more than 2,500 early deaths in Scotland every year." It'd be interesting to have a look at that in some depth at some point in the future. And it is children and vulnerable adults who are hit the hardest. So we're saying 200 people a month are dying because of air pollution. The tragic death of Ella Adu Kissi-Deborah, who died just aged 9 of asthma, was the first person in the UK to have air pollution listed as a cause of death. Highlights why tough actions against engine idlers is so important. Okay, so this 9-year-old tragic is actually horrific that somebody at 9 died with asthma. I know lots of kids that suffer from asthma. But the claim is there's 2,500 early deaths every year. That's 200 per month. But they've only heard of one. I kind of need to check this somehow. Do that. That'll be a future 10-minute mono. Have a look at that. So, Transport and Environment Convener of Edinburgh City Council, Councillor Scott Arthur, said engine idling is illegal and contributes to health-threatening air pollution. All drivers who are parked up or stationary for long periods should switch off their engines to help improve Edinburgh's air quality. Now, if you just give me a quick second, I'm just going to look at something there that just sprung to mind as I'm recording. So it's an old legislation. It's not something that's just been launched, but this environmental group have just decided that it's a bad thing, and we should now be concerned about it. And I'll get another article up in a second. Now, what I think is a bit weird, try to find who the councillor Scott Arthur. He's been a convener, Transport and Environmental, and Chair of Transport for Edinburgh. He's committed to working cross-party with residents and employees to ensure Edinburgh meets its climate obligations, cuts congestion and reduces the miles driven by the city by 30%. So it seems that this is something that Scott has a big desire for. So that's a bit bizarre. So, and I believe he's a Labour councillor who's a bit on the green side. Anyway, I digress. So, just yesterday I got sent this other article, which was oddly enough in a paper Birmingham Live, but it was going on about petrol and diesel drivers face £20 on-spot fines for engine idling. But when you read down it, Scottish Greens councillor Blair Anderson described the level of enforcement as minuscule, with only a number of council staff currently able to issue £20 fines. And he suggested empowering parking wardens to issue tickets, saying it would be preferable if parking wardens could just walk down the street and issue tickets. Councillor said, "We will respond to them and include facts from public health colleagues responsible for the enforcement aspect of it." So, and there was another, South Lanarkshire Council said, routine patrols are being undertaken throughout the district, and if you allow your vehicle to be idle unnecessary, you may be issued with a £20 fixed penalty fine. Considerable local and national advertising has been undertaken to inform the public about the offence of idle, and it's not an excuse to say you didn't know. As a rough guide, if you're going to be parked for more than 30 seconds, turn off your engine and restart when you're ready to move on. You're likely to use less fuel, reduce unnecessary emissions, improve air quality, and avoid the risk of receiving a fixed penalty. So it appears there's a push in Edinburgh and South Lanarkshire, and the Greens are involved, and this environmental mob. So this seems just to be their new go-to. You know, I live in Glasgow, which we've got a low emissions zone in the city centre. There's all this talk of 15-minute cities, etc. And this just seems like another way. I don't know. The honest answer is, will kids suddenly live longer if I don't have an engine idle? I mean, my car's got an automatic thing. If the battery's charged enough when I stop at lights, it's stuff it cuts out anyway. And I suppose a lot of modern cars will have that feature. But it just seems like, what's all this nonsense about? You'd actually get more respect for me if you just turned around and said, we don't want cars. Full stop. Just don't want cars. But that would then decimate economy. And all these moves, that's all they kind of do. People seem more happy to have zero emissions and less bothered about having zero industry. That doesn't concern anybody. These people, the only thing that concerns them is having zero emissions. The fact that it's going to probably lead to zero economy, zero industry, is just an afterthought. And I'm going to spend a bit of time looking into these claims that 2,500 people in Scotland are dying each year because of air pollution. 200 a month, 50 a week. I kind of find that hard to believe, but I'll have a look into it. But that's where we are. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe and notification buttons. Put your comments below. But the most important thing of all, unless you're one of these greens that are more interested in environment than industry, not you.
Everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.